So another week has come and gone, and it's time once again for Championship Rugby League with my old mate, Mr. Lingard. Hello, Craig. How are you?
Good morning, mate. I'm very well. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. Very well indeed. We'll get on to your game against Halifax a little bit later on. But for the eagle-eyed amongst you, you will see that we have got a very special guest here on this week's edition, Anthony Whiteley of the Goole Vikings. Do you prefer Tony?
Tony's easy, yeah. We'll go with that.
Tony's easy. Fantastic. So, yeah, before we get Tony on, because obviously Goole Vikings, new kids on the block, albeit not so much. We'll get into that in a minute. But obviously at the start of their journey, it's been a whirlwind few years since the side was resurrected back in 2018. But Tony, it's fair to say that, you know, for people who don't know the history of Goole, it goes back a lot further than that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it goes back to the end of the 19th century. On the ground we play it now, we hosted Warrington, etc. Leeds back in the 19th century, 1890s it was. Challenge Cup games, it was in the second division then. I think it split Yorkshire and Lancashire, the second division. So we played a lot of household names in that division, Hull KR being one of them. But sadly, like a lot of clubs back then, professionalism wasn't really sustainable, and Goole were one of the clubs that, along with, you know, your Todmorden and teams like that who dropped off and it financially wasn't viable for them. Rugby League then reignited again in the mid to late 1930s, just before Second World War. The most notable point was a Challenge Cup run that ended at home against Broughton Rangers, another club that eventually went by the wayside. Is the sad familiar pattern with Rugby League. And then up until 2018, there's been games Rugby League played at Goole. I think Hull FC at one point were muted about using Goole as a reserves ground, and I believe they did play maybe Leeds, well, they'd been Leeds RLFC at that point at the Victoria Pleasure Grounds, the only stadium in town, if you like. But other than that, there was no meaningful team carrying the banner of Goole in Rugby League. So we started up in 2018, and it's been a journey. Let's put it that way.
I mean, clearly there's an appetite for Rugby League in Goole. I mean, talk us through that. So, you know, whose brainwave was it? How did that reincarnation come about in 2018?
I was on long-term sick with work, waiting for a hip operation. I'll have been about 26, 27. And I thought, I never had the opportunity as a kid growing up to play Rugby League. I remember we played Rugby League at school, and then they switched to Rugby Union. We didn't have the opportunity, so I wanted to have a crack after my hip was getting sorted out. So I came up with the idea. I was bored, sat at home for about 3 months. And it really did just snowball. So I knew at the time the person who was running the local stadium in Goole. I knew that he needed to demonstrate that he could run the ground sustainably to the council, and I knew that he'd need finances in the summer when the football season ended. So I approached him. Everything was very much, you know, pie in the sky. We had a name, we had a badge. I'd seen a few people were throwing a Rugby League ball, a park in Howden, which is 3 miles out of Goole. I approached them and said, "Look, I'm going to try setting a club up. Do you want to help out?" Yeah, you know, you got more chance of working in Goole, bigger population, probably the right demographics, if you like, as well. And yeah, we got voted in to play at the ground. I think I based the financial aspect on having attendances of 60 to 80 people playing in the Yorkshire Men's Division 6 or whatever was the lowest division then. And then fast forward, I believe it was March 2019, we had our first home game in it was the Yorkshire Men's League Cup. We call it now. But we ended up playing Dewsbury Maroons at home, their reserve team. I think 350 came through the gate that day. We were selling, you know, we had snack bar open, we had an alcohol bar open, drinks bar, we had match day hospitality, £250 what we were selling it for. And from that moment on, it was kind of like, we could be onto something here. And yeah, from an idea just sat at home on sick in summer of July 2018 to that was already way beyond my wildest dreams of what I imagined, could be achieved really with rugby league and Goole.
Wow, I mean, inspiring stuff. And I mean, in terms of then, of course, there was the application that happened for the at the end of 24 for the 25 season. I mean, when you got the phone call to say that you were going to be entered into League One, I mean, that must have been a pinch me moment for you guys who started the project. Within 7 years, you're going from not even a club to now actually being entered into League One.
Yeah. What I will say is that, we people came into the project with certain skill sets and attributes, and they were the ones that drove it really. At this point, I personally stood down as chairman and let people who had more expertise in that area take over. That in itself was another strange story. Mark Richardson, the club's chairman, if you're aware of him, he was spotted at an amateur team game at the Victoria Pleasure Grounds. I remember having a conversation with him, and then it went cold. Didn't hear from him again for maybe 2 or 3 months. And then he approached, and it was his idea. It was his idea. There was plenty of people come before, said, "Look, you've got potential here. Look at the stadium. Look at the people you're getting in. Look at the setup." We had juniors up and running at this point, and that is important, not just for Goole Vikings, but for rugby league. Is that clubs focus on youth element of it? I think we've neglected that, but that's another story. And Mark drove that, brought in James Clark, and yeah. So when you bring a name like James Clark into things, he's got a very good reputation. He's still a young guy as well. He's not much older than me, and they really drove it and took it to the next level. And I think they made it hard for the RFL to not pick Goole. And so far, I would say that proven a few doubters wrong, and the RFL, I'm guessing, would be happy with the progress we've made as a club so far.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you're getting further into cup competitions. I mean, your first game, I had a quick look. Your first game in League One, you beat London, didn't you?
Yeah, well, that was in the Challenge Cup. Yeah,
the Challenge Cup.
I think for those who follow rugby league, down to the lower levels as well, it won't have been as big a shock as it sounds. Little old Goole, population 20,000, popping down to London and beating them in their own backyard. But, it was a fantastic win for the club, and it put us in the spotlight. It got people talking about us. And we've got a few other things that have done that as well in the past few weeks, mainly good. One maybe not so good. But it wasn't as big a shock for us at the club, I don't think, because we knew that London were going through a rebuild. They were kind of lucky to just be in existence at that point.
Yeah. And
then, fast forward this year, they've just put, 70 points difference on us. So they're a different beast again, but no, that was fantastic for the club, and that it got people talking, and that's exactly what we needed. So it couldn't have come at a better time.
No, and of course, bringing in, as your coach, Scott, who, let's be fair, been there, done it, got the T-shirt, to attract somebody early in his coaching career, clearly a great opportunity for him as well. But again, it says a lot, doesn't it? That, you've got Scott in position, he's got a wealth of knowledge. You're very much on the map, aren't you? I mean, you look at some of the personnel that you're bringing. Liam Watts is another example. You're attracting players who've been around the game for a long time, and that's got to be seen as a positive in terms of the standing of the club.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to players. Those players like Liam who are going transitioning from full time to part time. It's commutable. It ticks a lot of boxes for him, and I can fully understand why players like Liam do want to come down. There's the connection there with Scott, with James Clark, and I can't really exactly focus on that enough, really.
Yeah.
That that professionalism that's been brought into the club from transitioning from amateur to professional, it's really been key. But also to complement that, we've got a lot of young guys that James and Mark have managed to bring over to the club. A lot of young, hungry players, Shane Toohey, Brad Bullock, lads who probably won't be well known to followers of rugby league who maybe only follow Super League, but the lads who have got, they've got a career to try and to carve out in the sport, and they've they've been given an opportunity to do that at Goole and make that. Jalen Hodgson been another one as well.
Well, I've got to mention my old mucker. I thought whoever your scouting network is, Ollie Morgan. I mean, I know Ollie very, very well from his time at Warrington. What potential that, I mean, it's such a shame he got his injury. But I think you've nabbed. I mean, I mentioned Ollie many a time, as Craig will tell you, to Craig. I think Ollie has got all the attributes to be a top Super League 9. And when you pull that off, because I know there was a lot of suitors as well. And this is what I mean about the pull of your club, because I know that Lee Leopards were talked about as potential destinations for Ollie. So to get a player like that as well, who's very much at the start of his career with bags of potential, speaks volumes for your scouting network, and also that pull of the club, because he's had to uproot and move, and fair play to you.
Again, goes back to the infrastructure, and that's why ultimately I don't think the RFL. I'm under no illusion. If I'd have gone with the application myself in hand and said, "Oh, here we go, this is what we're going to do," we've shown it can work at an amateur level. There's enough interest there to keep it going. I mean, if you look at start-up rugby league clubs in towns that haven't had a rugby league team in decades, within 3 years, most of them are dead in the water. So, but even with that feather in my cap, we wouldn't be where we are today. So, I can't stress that enough that we brought people in. People have come to the club and bought, not just come to the club, they bought into it. They bought into the town, they bought into the community, and that is so important. A town like Goole, I would, I kind of relate it to your Featherstones that, Goole could have been another Featherstone if the 1930s team didn't disband. You could have had another Featherstone. It's a very similar demographic, very similar feeling to the area, and yeah, it boils down to infrastructure, and I think the club's got that right. Community outreach is building and getting better, and I think that got to get through these next couple of years. But if we can, everything, I really think that the club will take a foothold with the local sporting scene and be a powerful motive for positive change in the town as well.
Can I just ask a question, Dave? Is that all right?
Yeah. Well, I was going to bring you in anyway, because by all means, mate. But I mean, if you could touch on this as well, this is something to smile about, isn't it? In a sport this year where we've had so many stories, I'm sitting here and I'm smiling, thinking, what a great story this is, and perhaps more of what podcasts should be doing what we're doing here, which is actually promoting what Goole have done. It's a phenomenal story, Craig.
It's unbelievable, and we've spoke about it a number of times, haven't we? On this podcast about the success story and how positive it is. And I think the question I wanted to ask was, after such a short space of time, I guess from the new inception of the club, what do you think that the RFL, what are the selling points to the RFL to choose you over the other applicants? And do you think you're delivering on them points?
I think there's some real basic ones in there as well. Availability of players. For me, if your likes of Hemel Hempstead, when they were in the competition in League One, they were trading up north. I know some clubs now still do that. Availability of players, that was key. The fact that there is some background to the club, they've proven at amateur level we can be sustainable and grow. There's an appetite there in the town. But also, during the application, you have to prove and basically show going forward what your intentions are and what your plan is. And I think it was from memory, a very measured plan. Like I say, it was devised by people above me, but it was a really measured plan. It wasn't, there was no ideas of grandeur, if you like. It was, this is what we want to do. We know our ceiling, and this is where we want to go. That we want to be a strong community club that compete. And obviously, we never expected the Championship to be something that was merged with League One. At some point, we'd have wanted to push for the Championship, obviously, but so that's been sprung on us, and that's had its challenges as well. But I think really it was the likelihood of the club surviving is what maybe lent the RFL into choosing Goole over the other two candidates. The other two candidates were both in Bedford, have got a good Southern Conference League team, and they've put some foundations down. And I'd like to see them one day maybe get a crack, but I think they need to kind of, build on what they've already got before they get that. Because they're already at a disadvantage with the location. Whereas your Anglian Vipers, maybe I think the RFL were a little bit risk averse. But at the same time, you see there's an appetite there in Goole. That's why the club started in 2018. And it's just harnessing that now and, turning it into something that's productive for the town and shows the club survival as well, because it's very different from, the amateur days. We wouldn't charge entry. It'd be free entry. Just get people through them gates was the motto. Get them in, get them watching rugby league and get them interested. Look, I can talk about the local sporting environment and why I think it's the right time really as well, but I can go on so many tangents. It's my favourite subject. I go on about it all day.
That's lovely to see. It's the passion in it. It's just what can be achieved, and I have to. You talk about. Is there a feeling now in Goole that this is almost because like in rugby league towns, the rugby club is the centre of that town. When it's done right. That is where it's at. Castleford's a great example of that. Martin Jepson talked about on one of the other podcasts that the population of the town and how many people go through the gates. Are you getting that feeling at Goole that over the years it's becoming more and more prominent as a focal point of the town, and there's that pride element to what is being achieved?
Not yet.
No,
not yet. And that's where we need to be really, and that's where there's a gap in the sporting market. If you like, Goole's got a population of maybe 22, 23,000.
Yeah.
But the immediate area within a 7, which a lot of people have slated, the RFL for that decision with Goole's potential for growth, if you like. But in the immediate area, you've got another 20, 25,000 people.
Yeah.
We're not there yet. There's certain established clubs. There's the cricket club, they're well established. There's the rugby union club. They do great things, well established. They've played at a good standard recently and brought through a lot of good young lads from Goole. What we need to do is focus on our juniors, focus on community collaboration, working for the community, not just taking from the community. I think it's a time-based thing here. We've got 5 or 6 junior teams this year, and we only started in 2019. Bear in mind, we had COVID in there as well, which just completely hammered the club, sadly, in those aspects. We lost kids that never came back. We're building something, but rugby league's still alien to a lot of people in Goole. The interest is there. There's interest there to maintain an amateur team, but maintaining a professional team. It needs work, it needs time, it needs resources, and I know people at the club are putting that in place. It's just getting things over the line and moving forward. I think that we've had the stadium rebuild that's been disruptive. As exciting as it is, it's been disruptive. It's the worst time to start a team is when you're knocking down your stadium and you're playing in an half-built stadium at one point, or a building site, and then we've had delays as well. So the club wants to be the focal point of the town. Back in the 70s and 80s, it was the football team. Yeah. And they were like one division below the Football League at one point, pulling crowds of 2,000-3,000. But those days are gone, and there's now a chance for another sport in Goole to become the senior sport that people talk about. But it's changing mindsets. It's introducing people to rugby league and getting them hooked, and that's the challenge we've got, getting them hooked.
So from that, partnerships and working collaboratively with the likes of the cricket club, I presume schools as well, really important. One of the things that breaks my heart is that, I don't know what it's like on the other side of the Pennines, but, rugby league as a sport in PE at secondary school level has been dwindling for many, many years, preferred to the other code, which obviously don't understand why that'd be. Not as entertaining, is it? But again, are those the type of things you guys are working on in terms of the partnerships around in order to do exactly that, become the focal point and increase the people for the turnstile?
Yeah, we understand our demographics. We know that there's a lot of children in Goole who haven't been given opportunities to to really do things, shine, in a sporting sense as well. And I'd like to see, a thing for me, I'm Goole born and bred, would be to see local kids come through our system and get the opportunity to play for Goole Vikings in the future. And if not that, match day experiences, players going to the schools. These are things that kids remember.
Absolutely.
I remember being a ball boy for Goole AFC when I was 10, 11. I remember being that ball boy. I remember it being exciting. I think it was playing Pickering Town or something like that. But I remember it. You don't forget these things, and that's what I want the club to be able to do, is provide these opportunities and memories to kids, local children, and adults as well. It gives people something to unite together with.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about aspirations of kids. I mean, Craig, I'm not saying, Craig, you had the pleasure of doing a curtain raiser as a child at the Challenge Cup, didn't you? Back in the day.
No, that wasn't me.
Was it not? Was it not you? I was speaking to somebody. I interviewed somebody, and it was clearly not you. There was somebody. I was speaking to somebody, and they were actually playing in the. I think actually, I'll tell you, it was Bobby Goulding. It was Bobby Goulding who did that. But again, that'd be. Sorry, Craig. For a moment,
I've compared to Bobby Goulding before, mate.
You've got the same haircut. But in terms of you talked about your younger teams there, Tony, mate, and wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing if one of the amateur sides one day was the curtain raiser at Wembley and that type of stuff? I mean, I'm going to show you something, and you have, I don't think I've sent you this, and this is what really inspired me to get in touch with you. And like I say, it did inspire me. It's right that we promote what is going on down there in Goole, because it is a really good news story in rugby league that for me is being drowned out by all the chaos in rugby league. And it's these type of stories that I believe we should be giving more airtime to. The art of the possible, the passion for the game, that it can be set up in a town or a city that hasn't got rugby league. And yes, from small acorns grow great big trees, as we always know. But this was wonderful. So when Goole came to Warrington in the Challenge Cup, I put a post out on one of your fan pages to come and join us for a beer before the game. This was a photograph that I took, and they are all Goole fans. They all came in. They saw the plea from me on the on social media, and they all came. And what really took me aback is the age profile. There was 60-year-olds, and you can see the kids down there at the bottom who were so passionate about Goole. I mean, you forgive those kids, as you say, football and all the rest of it, to be, I don't want to go and watch Goole, but they were there. They were in the merch. They were talking passionately about their club. It was just so inspiring. And I have to say, I don't know, as merch goes, let me tell you, folks, Goole's merch is right up there. It's very, very smart, very, very well put together, and that is why I reached out, because I was like, I can't believe what I'm seeing here. You don't see this in some of the more established amateur teams. It was just unbelievable to see the passion in that pub for Brand Goole. They were realists that day in terms of their expectations, but they were playing at the Halliwell Jones Stadium. Again, go back to 2018. Now, look, you're playing a Challenge Cup game at the HJ against seasoned Super League professionals. It's the stuff of dreams. It's incredible, mate. It's absolutely incredible. And I, for one, and I know that Craig will be exactly the same, I'm keeping a big, big eye on Project Goole, and I will promote it and I will celebrate it every step of the way. And I just wish you nothing but the best, mate. I think it's an inspiring story. I think it's probably one of the best off sick leaves ever in the recent past in rugby league, mate. Because what you've started and long may it continue is incredible. And I know that you've stepped aside in terms of the day-to-day bit, but it started with that acorn, mate. And I hope it really does, grow and grow and grow into something huge. It's just incredible. Craig, any final thoughts from you where Tony's concerned before we let him? He's actually in the North Sea, folks. He's, this is how dedicated he is. He's actually on an oil rig, bless him, and he's that's dedication to the cause to promote his side. Craig, anything from you?
Yeah, I think for me, it's some of the issues that we've talked about, some of the struggles that we've talked about getting people interested in the game and growing the game in the local community. I don't think that's unique to rugby league or unique to Goole who are starting out. Just even local to me. the local rugby union club and cricket club complex, it's been there, over 100 years, and it's always been very, very strong. They're struggling for players as well. They're actually messaging my mates now who are late 40s, early 50s to come and play a game for the second team cricket on Saturday because they haven't got enough players. Right. So it's not just an issue that's unique to rugby league. It's rugby union, it's cricket, it's other sports in the community as well. So I think if work can be done to highlight that, like I said, not just in Goole but in rugby league in general, there's a real opportunity to try and get people maybe disenfranchised with sport as a whole, because it's not being pushed by schools, it's not being pushed by the local communities. So I think there's a massive opportunity there for any club to try and garner some interest and generate new generations of new supporters coming through.
Absolutely, mate. And I think, that's the social media. It's the new generation, isn't it? And I think what we'd all say is that when you're a part of a team, this is about life skills, isn't it? Which, I look at my kids, they just want to play PlayStations, and that's not real life. I think when you're a part of, and this is the beautiful thing about what's happening there at Goole, it's creating a community within a community. And from that, special things happen, not only on the field, but also in the society and in that demographic in terms of what can be achieved through togetherness and connection and community. And I think that there's an onus on the schools right across the country to do more, to get children participating, not playing it on a PlayStation, actually participating in whatever sport. Hopefully we want that to be rugby league, but to participate in any sport. And like I say, big congratulations to you, Tony. Love to come up and have a day with you guys in the future. Maybe do a Super League Raw live, mate, and promote the great work that you're doing down there. But do keep in touch. We'll get that set up at some point, and we'll come down. And keep battering away, mate. Keep battering away. It's inspiring. And give my best to all those Goole Vikings fans, because let me tell you now, they were a special bunch of people. You should be very proud to have supporters that off the field presented your club in that light. I was very, very impressed by each and every one of them. It was incredible.
Very grateful.
Right. I think Tony's finally succumbed.
Thank you.
Pleasure, mate. He's finally succumbed to the North Sea. So we'll let Tony go, and me and Craig will crack on. Craig, incredible. Absolutely incredible. It's like I say, in a season that's created so many headlines for the wrong reasons, that is a headline that hopefully, again, they've got big mountains to climb. I get that. It's very early in its project, but it is something that we should celebrate more, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I think, like we mentioned before, that I think as a society, we focus on the negative too much, and it's so easy to focus on the negatives that's going in and around the sport, whether it's just a referee's decision or something that a player's done on the field. And I think we're predispositioned to going straight towards a negative rather than focus on the positive. And there's a massive good news story there, massive positive story there within rugby league of a new club that's come in, taken its chance, and it's growing, and it's not going to be an overnight success. And it's, as we've heard, there's foundations that have been laid, and they're trying to build from them foundations, and it's a long-term project, and hopefully it can continue to thrive.
Well, we hope so, mate. Like I said, it'd be wonderful for the sport, and I think for me, and this is a plea to media, and it's and it's a problem with the Championship not having a TV deal and not being as prominent as it should be. But I appeal to those people who have got the opportunity in the sport, the journalists, the mainstream media, and other podcasts, to not wait until hopefully the day Goole are really contending. Don't wait till then. This needs celebrating now, and really get behind it, because it might inspire other communities, business people, to do what they've done, to create a club from an amateur club and dream and take it. So, we really should be doing much more where they're concerned.
I think with that as well, it might actually form a bit of a blueprint, because I think we've sort of touched on it a little bit there, generational-wise now. We're working with a different generation that's never been here before, because of the immediacy and the interest of things straight onto your phone or your iPad or your screen, whatever it is. And going back to when we were young, that we didn't have that, so we had to go out and do stuff. That's where there were interactions out there with your mates, whether you're playing football, rugby, or cricket, or whatever it was. And just that commitment to something as simple as now. If you could just ring your mate or text your mate and say, right, I'm going to go down to the pub, you ought to come down for a drink. Whereas when I first started going out, we didn't have mobile phones, it were landlines. And you'd arrange to meet your mate at the pub on the following Friday, 7 days in advance. and you didn't have any other form of contact apart from a landline. So you turn up 7 days in advance because you're committed to it. Whereas now that generation is not there anymore. So I think what we've got to do as a society as a whole and as a sport as a whole and as new clubs coming in is work out a different way how to interact with this new generation of people coming through that I call them the microwave generation. They want everything straight away. They want to put something into a microwave, stick a fork in it, turn a clock for 30 seconds and it's ready, rather than put something in the slow cooker and develop it over 4, 5, 6 hours. It's that immediacy that they want now. And maybe as a sport, we need to learn out better how to interact with this new generation that's coming through. What do we need to do on game days? Is there anything else that we can do to get these people there? That the rugby league might not actually be the focal point of getting these people to the ground. It might be something else that's there and making the whole day more of an occasion, a little bit like Ulkayard have done with their match day experience.
Yeah, and I think, again, we didn't mention it there, but it's not just the schools, it's the local councils as well. I mean, one of the most inspiring things, and it's easy when you're Freddie Flintoff to go and do it and with a camera and all the rest of it, but that cricket programme where he went on the streets and pulled people into cricket to play, and he took them on the road and all the rest of it. It was inspiring, and what it showed was that, let's be fair, a lot of those kids were lost. A lot of those kids were going down the wrong path. There was a lovely, I don't know if you watched that series, but there was a moment where these young kids, who some of them were even known to police, ended up playing a cricket match against the police. And by the end of the game, there was respect and there was good dialogue between police officers, who were, of course, civvies that day. They were playing cricket but for the police, and the young kids. And the work that and the impact that can have at a local level, breaking down barriers, giving them a purpose, giving them a sport to play. And they're the type of things that, again, we're talking about governance of our sport. And, I might be shooting for the hip here and a lot of this type of thing goes on. But, for me, we probably should be doing a lot more of that type of stuff. And for whatever reason, we're not. And I think that there's definitely an audience there that, like I say, kids that are lost who need a purpose. And rugby league could be that purpose, because once you're in the rugby league family, you are a part of something, aren't you? We're all a part of something, aren't we?
Of course you are. And I think it's maybe a bit more of a deeper conversation politically, but I think schools now, they don't focus on sport because they're not marked on sport. Schools now, they want they're judging how many people they can get the ABCs or 9s, 8s, 7s, whatever it is now, whatever the mark them in, and there's more focus on that and less focus on the sport because the schools don't get any bonus from that. And I think even going all the way down to primary schools and junior schools, whatever the terminology is now, that even on sports days, I've one of my friends, his kid were never academic and he weren't great at studies, but he was very, very good at sports. But then it comes to sports day. And you can't have winners in sports day now. You can't celebrate the person who wins the race. You don't get a badge now for winning a race because you're not allowed to do that, because the person who finishes last, it's not fair on them. But you flip that to an exam. You don't give everybody the same mark or for participation. You reward people based on the skill level. And I think we take away that focus now. There's winners and losers in life. And you can win at exams, you can lose at exams. And the focus has been taken away now from sport of learn how to win and learn how to lose. And we've got to reward these people. A lot of people that play rugby league, let's not get this wrong. Academically, a lot of people historically haven't been the greatest, but they've been very, very good physically and very, very good at sport. So I think as a society, as a school system, as a government, we need to reward people more for the sporting prowess and take the focus away a lot more from the education side of it.
Fantastic, mate. Couldn't agree with you more. Life's about winning and losing. It's about resilience. It's about getting back up off the floor. I mean, we've all had to do that for our lives. You're right. And you know what? We've all been there. We've all shed a tear. We've all had moments in our life where we've been down and we've been searching for the answers. But we get there, and that's about life. Life isn't a bowl of cherries, is it? It's hard work.
You've got to learn to deal when things don't go right. And I don't think as a society now and as a school system we do that. We safeguard kids from failure, we safeguard kids from disappointment. But unfortunately, life is, like you say, it's not all roses and chocolates, is it? You're going to get knocked down. It's how you pick yourself back up. But I don't think as a society we teach our children how to deal with adversity, how to deal with when things don't go right.
Spot on. No, I couldn't agree with you more, mate. Great to have him on. I'm sure we'll have him on again. We'll have more guests as well as the season goes on. But really enjoyed speaking to Tony. It was crystal clear there, what pride and what passion he's got for Goole, and and that's what it's all about. Absolutely wonderful stuff. Let's get into the week that was. It started on Friday night with yourself. Because we've had Tony on, we have got a little bit of 18th man on tour, but we'll do that next week when Craig met 18th man on tour. We've had to move things around today for logistical reasons in terms of technology, but we will have that next week. 18th man on tour when he met Craig. Good interview, and I'm sure you enjoyed meeting Bill. He's a good lad, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. I didn't realise you were from Batley as well, and we discussed some of his dad's old watering holes that I might have frequented once or twice in my early days.
Clearly understood each other. The unspoken language of Batley. But anyway, let's get into the game. 28 points to 14 over Halifax at Halifax. Great win. Good win this. A solid win. Got off to a really strong start. But as has been the case for you a little bit, making life hard for yourself again, Mr. Lingard. It got a bit tasty at one point, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, I think. But you're going to get that. Halifax are a quality team, and I've said this before. They've maybe struggled with the number of players that they're rotating round, but you look at their team 1 to 17. It's still a quality side, is that? And you're not going to go through an 80-minute performance against a team like that and have everything your own way. I actually thought it was our best performance this season in terms of the process and sticking to a game plan and identifying when these periods of the game come where you're not quite doing what you need to do, but once you've recognised that, what do you need to do to get back to what you were doing well previously? And I think sometimes this season we've not recognised it, and two, if we have not recognised it, not remedied it, which I thought we did that this week against Halifax. They came for a 10 or 15 minute period in that second half where they got a couple of quick scores, and we could have quite easily rolled over and maybe just pressed the self-destruct button as we've done a few times. But I was really pleased with how we sort of came through that period of time and got back to just getting some possession and ending our sets well deep into their 20-metre area and then defending tough and getting the ball back in the right areas of the field. So for me as a coach, that was my most pleasing performance this season.
I'm going to take you back to a moment that probably had the air blue, but it was very kind of you when your team turned into Santa Claus and gifted my mate Alfie Johnson a very simple score. That must have been the moment of the game where it probably wouldn't have been a good time to be around Mr. Lingard. Would it be right?
Do you know what? You can't help them. That's a mistake within contact. It's not something. It's not a decision making thing where somebody's thrown a silly pass or done the wrong thing at the wrong tackle. He's gone into a tackle, returning the ball on the first tackle, and it's a good physical tackle. The ball's come out, they picked it up, and they've scored the try. Them sort of things you can wear. So funnily enough, I didn't actually mind that too much. It was just one of them rugby league instances rather than a brain explosion where somebody done something that they can control. That were a forced error. Sometimes you get unforced errors which you can control. Forced errors you sometimes can't, and you've got to give credit to Halifax there with the kick and the kick chase and the physicality in the tackle, but also picking the ball up and executing the play.
Yeah. No, he's a good lad, Alfie. He's a good lad. I'm pleased that he's found himself a team. Pleased that he got the score. One thing that would have made you happy. What an offload from Kieran Gill. What an offload that was for try one for Brown. He really is playing some wonderful rugby league for you, isn't he, this season?
Yeah, he's getting back there. He's struggled a little bit with a knee injury as Gill is come back in last couple of weeks, getting that match fitness back. And we discussed that at the review last night, and we think that offload was to Billy Walker, not to Joe Brown.
Sorry, Billy Walker. Sorry, yeah, my apologies.
No, Joe Brown scored the try.
It was Joe Brown, wasn't it?
Yeah, Joe Brown scored the try.
Yeah.
But we actually think that he would offload him to try and get to Billy Walker, and Joe Brown's come and caught the ball. So he just said, I would offload him just for.
Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. You even got me second guess. Oh, sure, it's Joe Brown. But speaking of Billy though, hat trick one week, a brace the next. He's finding the line for you, isn't he?
Yeah, it is. I think he's going to try a game now. Is it 13 and 13? I think it is. The work that he does away from the opposite end of the field as well. Luckily for us and him, he's getting that try scoring form now because he deserves it with the work that he does coming out of backfield. It's regularly 15 to 20 carries a week, 150 metres every week. But some of the carries that he takes, it's the first carry when you're 5-6 metres away from your own try line and the opposition are they've all tightened up and they're just waiting to tee off on the guy who's carrying the ball. And more often than not, it's Billy Walker that's doing that. So I think he's getting his rewards now. As a winger, I guess you're judged on the tries that you score, but the work that he's doing in the backfield has been outstanding for us this season.
Couldn't agree more. Good win for you, mate. Good win for you. London this week, though. Wincing on that one. But yeah. Great win. And again, you're not judged on London. You're judged on these type of games, aren't you? And the bottom line is, mate, that was a very welcome to. I know that you were going into that with absolute respect for Halifax, and to come out with that win must have felt very, very good indeed. Before we move on to the 1895, let's tip a window to the Sheffield Eagles wheelchair team. They got the second win of the season, didn't they, against the FC as well this week? So that's a good news story for the club as well. Yeah,
it was a good week all round for us. The women's team won as well, so all three teams won this week. So as a club, it were very, very positive.
Absolutely, all ends up. As I say, I do think that I'm disappointed that the wheelchair has not really kicked on from the incredible impact it had at the World Cup. You know, there was a great opportunity. I mean, when you watch it, it is so entertaining. It really, really is. And again, almost groundbreaking. Rugby league, yet again, groundbreaking in terms of that particular sport. And it's such a shame at the moment that it just doesn't seem to be capturing people's imagination as much as it did during that World Cup.
Yeah, and I think I guess if you look at value for money from a TV point of view, you wouldn't have thought that I guess the production cost to film the wheelchair rugby league would be a massive amount of money, that you'd think that the return for money or value for money for having a TV deal somewhere, whether it's streaming or whether it's on a free-to-air TV station, might get a little bit of traction with it.
Yeah.
Just needs to take a bit of a gamble on it, I guess.
Yeah, very inclusive sport, isn't it? Very, very inclusive sport. But yeah, well done to all concerned. Let's get into the 1895, and I tell you, it was a very, very interesting. Again, you talk about the comebacks, incredible. I mean, nobody's going away. Start with Widnes, hard fought 30-20 win over Newcastle. Newcastle flew out the blocks, absolutely flew out 18-0 at half time. Yeah. Cruising. I mean, how many times have we spoke about this year? And then fair play to Widnes. Back they come second half to turn that deficit around and ended up winning 30 points to 20. Incredible performance second half from Widnes, sorry.
Yeah, it was. And funnily enough, I missed the first half, managed to catch the second half. And I thought Widnes were very, very good. And it just shows that the more times that you get the ball in the right areas of the field, and the more opportunity you're going to get to score points. And I think that's what Widnes did really well. The dominated field position, the dominated possession, scored some really nice tries, executing the plays on the edges as well. And I thought certainly from the second half performance, value for money for the comeback.
Absolutely. Yeah, well done to Widnes, of course. Great win. Incredible comeback. I thought it was all over at half time. That's done and dusted, but credit to him. Incredible win. Rochdale 24, Goole 6. Pretty straightforward win in the end, this one for Rochdale. No real comeback on the cards. They got ahead, sustained it, got the job done.
Yeah, they did. And we mentioned last week, didn't we, that Rochdale would have maybe been using this to try and get a little bit of form, a bit of confidence leading back into the league campaign. They've suffered a few defeats recently in the league campaign, so they'll take a lot of confidence from that. And yeah, quarter-final loss for Goole, but for their first season or second season in the competition, then it's a decent result getting to go out quarter-finals.
Absolutely. London Broncos coming past Doncaster 52 points to 20. So Shambe hat-trick in this one. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I've watched the game back, and London, as they normally do. I think the last three games have scored a try in the opening 10 minutes. They scored a try in the opening set this week against Doncaster. I think they got 6 again on tackle 3, tackle 4, and then end up scoring a try in minute 1. And it just takes a lot of pressure off them. But then what Doncaster did really well is they went set for set for a period of sort of 10 or 12 minutes, and then got the next try. So it just shows that if you can get into that set for set battle with them, it does open up some opportunities. But London showed the quality, showed the class, and pulled away in that first half. But again, second half, Doncaster came back and scored three 3 unanswered tries in the space of 5 or 6 sets. So there is opportunities there if you do the right things and you are relentless in what you do. But we also saw in that game Doncaster made several errors and London capitalised on nearly every single one of them errors by scoring points. And that's what really, really good teams do. And they're really clinical when you give them that ball in good ball areas. They've got just so much quality across the park that you've got to keep the ball away from them. If you're making errors and giving them easy possession, they're going to punish you.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who thinks who's going to take a scalp off London this year, they're going to have to be perfect, aren't they? It's going to have to be a perfect
100%.
display.
I think as a team, you're going to have to be 85-90% to your capacity, and you're hoping that London are going to be 50% of their capacity. And I think that's not being disrespectful to any team in the division. It's just being very, very complimentary to the quality that London have got on the field and the recruitment process that they've gone through.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Probably is it a surprise? I don't know. I mean, Oldham been in a great run of form. And home field advantage. You think, do you know what? I think we both thought perhaps it's an Oldham. Midland Hurricanes, after what has been a bit of an up and down part of their season recently. What a win! Yeah. What a win that was for Midland to go to Oldham in that form, in Oldham's current form. And it was a tri-fest. Talk about entertainment. Go and have a bit of that. Beautiful. Absolutely amazing. I mean, half-time, 24-all. Go on, lads. You weren't short-changed, were you? But what a win. What a win that is for Midland. And again, another team that, let's be fair, it's in its infancy in terms of its recent rise, isn't it? Let's be clear. It's another tick in the right direction for Midlands to be in an 1895 Cup semi-final, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we mentioned last week, didn't we, that on form, you'd pick Oldham to win the game because they were absolutely flying, and Midlands had them couple of defeats, haven't they, against London and Swinton as well. So on form, then you had to pick Oldham, certainly being at home. But I think we also caveated that with the fact that if Midlands showed some of the form that they'd shown in the early part of the season, particularly in the game when they beat Doncaster, then they could turn up and cause some problems. And that's exactly what they did. And did only get off to a flying start with the 18 points up or 24 points up at one point in that first half. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they were absolutely flying, mate. I mean, they got off the blocks. They were actually 24 points to 0 up.
Yeah.
They were absolutely flying. So they scored 24. Then they conceded 24 unanswered. Second half, Midland take the lead and never. Well, it came back to 30 points apiece at one point, but Midland went on and got the win. But yeah, I mean, to be 24-0 up and go in at 24-all. I mean, you can imagine that played a big part in the overall result, because in the shed, there's got to be a lot of Oldham players there looking at each other going, what has just happened there?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it goes back to what I said about our game against Halifax. You're not going to go through a game without the opposition having a period in that game, however long that period is, where they're going to be on top and in the ascendancy. And it's how you recognise that, how you come through the other side. And the Widnes and Newcastle game. Newcastle winning 18, they'll end up losing the game. Oldham winning 24, they'll end up losing the game. So it's not out of the ordinary for teams that you'd say that are winning by 3 or 4 scores, and it's a comfortable lead, and you expect them to hold on, that they can lose the game. But it's how you as a team, if you are in that deficit part, you've got to keep plugging away. You've just got to keep doing what you know is going to work and keep doing it relentlessly for as long as you possibly can. And who knows what's going to happen.
Who knows what is going to happen? Couldn't agree more. Great stuff. Outstanding. Well done, of course, to the teams that got through. And we mentioned about Widnes. Widnes going to be taking on Rochdale. Midland's reward for that win over Oldham is London. So, like I say, from a Widnes perspective, they having come back the way that they did, could be a final. I mean, Rochdale will have something to say about that. But again, Widnes at the moment, we said that about Oldham and Midland Hurricanes, didn't we, in the quarters? But Widnes' current form, they will be probably fancying that they're going to get to that final.
Yeah, definitely. I think it opens up a wider issue fixture-wise for me as well, because the date that they've put the final is on the Monday evening, the day after the last league game. Now, we've still got skin in this game now, because we're due to play Widnes at home on the last league game of the season. Now, if Widnes beat Rochdale and get into the final, that last league game of the season for us, it's obviously not going to be played on that day. So it's when do we now play that remaining league fixture? Do we have to play it early? Do we have to then go Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday again, which is against the medical recommendations, where they want 5 days between games? as and when it suits the RFL to get the games in. It's just really, really poor planning all around for me as an individual to have that final on a Monday evening, the day after what is due to be the last league game of the season, when you know that there's going to have to be at least 2 games that are going to have to be rearranged. It just seems really, really poor planning for me all around.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I hear you, mate. I hear you. Let's get into this week, and surprisingly tonight, Doncaster take on Barrow tonight. Hey, Wednesday night fixture in the Championship. Who'd thought that? And I'll tell you what, it should be a good one. Both side by side in the league. Worth going to watch this one, I would have thought.
You can get there on a Wednesday night, yeah.
Yeah, if you can get there on a Wednesday night, yeah.
This is another one of them fixtures that we're talking about that's had to be rearranged and or a fixture added, and it's okay to play on a Wednesday night, go Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday, as and when it suits. There's not really a great deal of consideration there for the part-time players that are having to work 5 days a week and then train 3 times a week and then play 3 games in 8 days. It's for that player welfare issue, for me, it's not a good look for the game. But on paper, it looks a very good game. I guess you've got to see how Doncaster have pulled up from their fixture at the weekend, how they travel up there. It's an interesting fixture.
It is. I'm just looking now, actually, whilst we're chatting. Are they streaming it? Because it could be that once people have finished watching this, they can go and watch Doncaster. But anyway, let's move on to Friday. I'll have a quick look at that whilst you're talking us through the next one. Goole Vikings going up against Newcastle at Newcastle. Not too far of a distance for that one on a Friday night at 7:30. It's interesting for me that these games are being played though at 7:30 because that half an hour difference, especially on a working day, for the players and for the fans, is quite critical, I think. At 7:30, you don't see many 7:30s anymore, do you? I mean, 8 o'clock tends to be the go. And how important are 30 minutes? I think they're very important in terms of the supporters.
Oh, massively, yeah. Say if you're having to travel a little bit of a distance and you're not finishing work till 4 or 5 o'clock, that can have a massive impact on when you can set off, whether you can get to the game or not. Is it going to be a bit of a rush? Do you need to get home to pick your family up to get them back to the game? And it can have a huge impact on the decision about whether you attend or not. But game-wise, you would expect home advantage. Newcastle, again, prior to the Widnes game, the form that they're in, you would suggest that the smart money would be on them to win that game.
You would, absolutely, you would. I mean, it's not listed at the moment on their website, on their YouTube channel, but they do have a history of putting it on there. And whether it's live or not is another story. So it's worth looking for. Maybe might be on Barrows as well. Worth checking once you finish watching us tonight to see if Doncaster Barrow is being streamed. And if it is, enjoy, folks. Enjoy. Oldham take on Midlands in a repeat of the 1895 Cup quarterfinal. So both teams are going to have to do, both teams in terms of recovery and all the rest of it, exactly identical in this. Yeah. Something tells me Oldham will be smarting. Is this going to be one of those where the winner in the cup game loses in the league?
Well, we've seen that a few times this season, haven't we? It's been strange. We mentioned it previously, haven't we? It's strange how these fixtures often pop up after they've drawn each other in the cup. So looking at Super League, you've got to look at our Wigan, haven't you? Prior to the Challenge Cup final, it's interesting how many times these games throw themselves up. And I guess as a coach for both teams, you're saying let's attack how we attack, but let's defend a little bit better than we defended.
I think defence would certainly have been on the agenda after both sides conceding points on that scale. Sunday, as always, traditional 3 o'clocks this week. All 3 o'clock kickoffs on Sunday. Kicking off again. So again, Barrow having to go short turnaround against Hunslet. Would you there, just because rest and recovery, this probably gives Hunslet a real good shot at this for me.
Yeah, it does. And, it's I know you do this every single week anyway, but with that short turnaround as well, players might be having to pick and choose which game they play. If they're sort of 70-30 fitness-wise, they're not going to be able to play 2 games in such a short period of time. So is it a squad rotation thing? Are you expecting the same 17 players to back up the Wednesday to the Sunday? And if you pick up any little niggles or HAs or whatever it might be during this game, then it's going to have a massive impact on the team that you can select on that Sunday. So I think what happens on Wednesday will have a big impact on what potentially happens on Sunday as well. But you'd certainly, if you Hunslet, you're certainly very, very happy that the team that you're playing on the Sunday is also having a game on the Wednesday.
Yeah, Batley taking on North Wales Crusaders. Will Billy be happy? Billy, 18th man on tour. Do you think it's a Batley win?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think North Wales obviously restarting again. I think it's going to be a difficult couple of months for them to get through to the end of the season, results wise. So you'd expect Batley to be winning that game fairly comfortably.
Dewsbury Rams, Workington Town.
Interesting game, very interesting game. I think two teams that we've played this season, and obviously we struggled a little bit against Dewsbury. We won after the hooter, and we went up at Workington, had a decent performance up at Workington, but Workington came back in that second half at us. So interesting game. Maybe again, are you heading towards a side who's playing at home just as a bit of a seesaw tilter? I'm not sure. No.
Hey, getting that Dewsbury winning again. Great win. That was some ending that was to that game. Brilliant stuff. Halifax Panthers, Salford. Interesting game.
Yeah, it is. Two teams that are, I guess, in that transition phase in terms of starting again this season. There seems to be a lot of good news stories drip feeding out of the Salford camp. Brad Dwyer signing there permanently. You've got Kieran Dixon signing there permanently as well. So they're slowly building, I guess, to get stronger as the season progresses. Halifax, they'll be looking at trying to get back on the horse from last week as well. So again, it's a toss of the coin for me. Is this one?
Yeah, interesting. I read it. Brad Dwyer's assistant coach as well, which with his off field, he's into his properties, Brad. So that was interesting that Brad's doing that in his rugby league career, which that took me a bit by surprise. But yeah, Kieran Dixon, another let's be say old pro, got bags of experience as our Kieran, hasn't he? Rochdale Hornets taking on Swinton Lions. A couple of weeks ago we'd have probably been going Rochdale, but Swinton. All of a sudden, Swinton have found some signings, have found some groove, and this could be a tough one to call for me.
Yeah, I think it is. As you said there, Swinton have previous few weeks have got some decent results by bringing them experienced players in to get them over the line. Rochdale struggled a little bit in the league recently, but got the much needed victory and confidence boost at the weekend in the 1895 Cup. I'm not sure with this one. I'm not. I'm probably going to side with Swinton just based on the confidence that they've got recently in the league campaign and getting the wins on the board, and they're now getting used to that. Yeah, so I'll probably side with Swinton, maybe controversially.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I'm with you. It is, like I say, 5 weeks ago, we're probably going completely the other way. But yeah, due respect to Swinton and what they've started to produce. Yeah, could be very close, but interesting game. Yeah. You're going up against London. Forgive me, is this your first one at the new stadium?
It is, yeah. First game at Mep Stadium, yeah.
Yeah, so that's exciting. Obviously, looking forward to that. How's the tickets looking favourable for this? Obviously, moving stadiums. How's it looking this side out from the game?
Absolutely no idea.
No idea. Fair play. But it's a tough one. I mean, I'm going to give you some credit here as Sheffield, because when you look at London's performances this season and some of the scores they put on, your result when you went down to London was very respectable against your peers who've gone down there. There's been some really, they've hammered a lot of teams. I wouldn't put your performance in that bracket. I thought you did all right, to be fair. You'd want a similar fighting, gritty performance in this one, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'd like a better start though. We were 12-0 down after 5 minutes, so I'd like or 10-0 down after that. I'd like a better start, but we showed a lot of character in that game. Certainly in the second half, we lost 2 players, 2 middles to HIAs. Lewis Peachy and Blake Broadbent went off within space of a few minutes of each other with HIAs, and his backs were against the walls a little bit. But they came through the other side in a real tough game. I think the way that London started against us, you're fearing the worst a little bit, and we lost several players. Jack Bussey we lost as well through injury. So we had one sub on the bench in that second half period. So yeah, we're hoping to have maybe a little bit of a stronger squad this week. But we lost Corey Johnson to an HIA against Halifax, and Josh Hodgson came off at half time and didn't go back on, so he's having to be reassessed. We're hoping George Griffin's going to be back this week. He were a late withdrawal against Halifax prior to the game, so we're hoping that he's going to be back. But yeah, we're playing with a little bit of confidence, and I think it's all about, like I said before, it's about that process for us and making sure that we can go as long as possible, go set for set with them and see where that takes us. And I think in games like this, you don't necessarily look at the whole 80 minutes to start with. You've got to break it down into little chunks, and it might be that first 5 minute period. You're probably going to get 6 sets in that first 5 minute period, and you're wanting to look to complete every single one of them. Don't give any penalties away, don't give any 6 agains away, don't give any tries away. But also when you've got the ball, complete as much as you can and end your sets as deep as possible and just get into that process of the game. And if you do that and you get a good foothold in the game, then that's your first job, and it's how long can you maintain that for. What you don't want to do as a team is concede penalties early on or concede points early on, and you've got to restart again. So I think the first chunk of the game, the first sort of 5 minute block is our first thing we've got to tick off, and then see where that takes us.
Wish you well, mate. Whitehaven, Keighley to finish off the round. Your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, again, another one too close to call, I think, for me. It's I think Keighley have gone well over previous weeks and got a few victories, but having that travel up there to Whitehaven, home field advantage again, does that play a part? And Whitehaven has struggled a little bit recently for form, so they'll be looking at trying to get a victory. Yeah, I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm going to get splinters in my backside on this one and sit on the fence.
We're always sitting on the fence. Get my words out. Sitting on the fence. Outstanding. Well done. Look, like I say, some good fixtures there. Game tonight. Don't forget that. Maybe worth a quick browse on YouTube if you like your rugby league. Maybe you want to sit down and watch Doncaster Barrow if it is being streamed this evening. Always worth keeping an eye out. Especially the Sunday games. I know that. We're starting to get the odd Super League Sunday game, but there's other options out there, and maybe watch a couple of these on repeat. There's some belters, especially the close ones. I mean, just it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out that some of these games this week, if you can get the full replays, are going to be a good 80 minutes of your life. The Oldham Midland one, for example, very, very entertaining game. Witness Newcastle as well. Very entertaining game, as too was the Sheffield Halifax one. So, like I say, well worth, if you can find them on full 80-minute repeat, go and enjoy it. What else are you going to do on your dinner hour when you're doing your tuna and cucumber sandwiches after all? Watch some rugby league. But anyway, as always, mate, really appreciate your time. As always, it was great having Tony on the show as well. More special guests will come as the season goes on. But on behalf of myself and on behalf of my friend, Mr. Craig Lingard, enjoy your Championship Rugby League once more this weekend. And we will see you all same time, same place, next Wednesday. Enjoy your rugby league. Bye for now.